come on, baby.
Hello, my name's Cree, and welcome to the Beginner's Guide of Hunting. So, I decided to set out and do a beginner's guide to hunting, to introduce new hunters that may not have grown up around it in the home. No one really took them out. You know, Dad didn't take them out, Grandpa didn't take them out, maybe they didn't have these parents or grandparents in their life. I want to try to help the youth, maybe even older people, if it fits the description. If you guys want to start hunting and you haven't really figured out how or anything like that, I want to try to be the guy that can help. So that's why I'm making this, and let's get started. So I had a few shorts on TikTok and on YouTube here where I go through and describe things that you need to begin to start hunting. You know, obviously you need to get yourself a weapon. You need to get yourself camo. A spotlight or a headlight would be really well for tracking blood and getting in and out of the woods in the dark. That brings me to another topic that I'm gonna talk as I think here. If you're not used to like the dark, or like you're younger and you're scared of the dark, or maybe you're older and you're scared of the dark, I would say a good practice would be to go through a place that you know, your house or whatever, and at night walk around your house to get used to being, you know, in the dark, because you will be walking to your stand in the dark. You will be walking back to the truck in the dark. And I know a lot of people are afraid of the woods at night and the things that could possibly be out there. A lot of people do carry a sidearm when they're out. I personally don't. I believe in Michigan, I could be wrong about this, but it's from what I know, it's illegal to carry a sidearm with you during bow season. So why am I gonna carry one anyway? I'm not gonna, you know, I'm just gonna walk with my bow, and I got my knife on my side, and I'm gonna be 26 here in August, and I've never had any trouble. The closest encounter with anything that I have had was I was sitting on a ridge like this, and I was sitting about right here, and it started snowing so bad that I said, you know what, I'm gonna hightail it out. And I walked out to the road, and then I walked up the road, and I would say probably 20-30 yards behind me, there was 4 sets of wolf tracks that had crossed the road, and they definitely walked behind me. You know, I was sitting with the wind in my face. They got to smell me. They were behind me. They knew I was there. I was sitting on the ground with my back up against a tree, but they never bothered me. You know, there's plenty of stories of other animals, wolves chasing people and this and that, and bears. I guess it's a risk that we're willing to take as hunters, and that we're willing to step up to the challenge. So that is definitely one thing to keep in mind. But throughout 26 years, well, I'm 26, throughout, we'll say 15 years of hunting by myself, I haven't had any issues. So back into what you're gonna need to begin hunting. Obviously, you need your weapon, you need your camo, and don't go out and splurge. I just don't do it, man. The best camouflage that you can have is to just be silent, to not move, to be still in the woods, okay? And when it comes to finding a location, for whatever you're hunting, turkey, whitetail, that's what I hunt, that's what I'm gonna be talking about. You wanna go to areas that these animals frequent. We're gonna focus in on whitetail. Find where these animals will be feeding. For me, I go and find oak trees, white oaks, and they like to feed on these acorns. It is a very, very productive spot, and I know very advanced hunters that will still hunt in the oak trees or near them during bow season. By rifle season, they're usually picked up around here, or they're under some snow. There'll still be some bits left on the floor for them to scavenge up, but they really do like the very fresh. If you're in an oak patch or near an oak patch and you can hear the acorns falling, you're gonna see deer, you're gonna see animals. That is like a telltale of, you know, you're in the right spot at the right time. If you're there and they're just already on the ground and they haven't been scavenged yet and they're not dropping yet, there's a good chance that deer and other animals have moved on to where they're freshly dropping. They, for some reason, are just really hot on what's coming directly off the tree. As far as what's left there to scavenge, they're not about it as much. But let's say you're in an area that doesn't have acorns. That's fine. I know a lot of people in a lot of areas actually don't have a lot of public land and have field and field edges, cornfields, soybean fields. I guess if I would hinge on the side of, if you're trying to begin hunting and you never were really brought into it, that you also don't have private land. I could be wrong. If you're starting off and trying to find sign for whitetails, you want to find the edge. And what I mean by that is, you want to find the edge of clear cuts. Clear cuts are another very good source of food for whitetail, for turkey, for really anything. You want to look, I know Onyx has it and other mapping systems have it, where you can check and see what year the clear cuts were actually cut. You want to go to something, say it's deer season this year, starts on October. You want to go to something that was cut last fall. That is going to be the most productive. If you can't find acorns, or you don't have private land with, you know, your corn and soybeans and food plots and all that, if you have that, you're probably not watching this video. You're going to be on public land where they have these clear cuts, and you want to check for something that's 1 or 2 years old, where they still have green sprouts coming up out of the stumps, and that's what the deer are feeding on, are those buds. So in order to start finding if deer are actually hitting their clear cut, you can go to the clear cut and walk the perimeter. Walk the perimeter. Go, I would say, anywhere from 100 to 0, 100 yards in from the edge, and check for runways, tracks, rubs, scrapes. And if you don't know what the rubs and the scrapes are right now, that's fine, we'll get into that. But you want to check for deer sign to let you know that there's actually deer in your area, and that this wouldn't be a horrible spot to hunt. That is actually where a lot of people get pretty decent deer, is on these clear cuts around here. The Forest Service and that does a good job of providing the information and getting it out and actually getting their clear cuts cut, and people are able to go and hunt the edges of them. I've hunted the edge of them for a few years. That's actually where I got my last buck, was about, I'd say 200 to 300 yards in from the edge of the clear cut. So now when you're looking, say you found your clear cut and you're looking for sign and you want to know what a scrape is. A scrape is, usually they could be smaller or bigger, but we'll say a patch of dirt, something like that. You know, people have them the size of the hood of your truck, you know, real big ones. But there's an area that bucks and does both hit it, but the buck will usually start it, scraping the ground with their hooves, and there usually is a lick branch above. So you want to look at the height of that branch, and it should be anywhere between 3 to 4.5 feet off the ground, depending if this is a really mature buck that's bigger and taller. I've seen deer personally on my camera jump up on their hind legs in order to rub their face on a lick branch. So it could be pretty high. It could be pretty high. And you could normally tell by looking at this said branch, if it's on a green tree, if there's breaks on the branch, that it's still green and they broke it. That's how you know they're hitting, okay? But what the deer do is they come through and they will pee or poop into the scrape, leaving their scent. They'll paw at it, and then they'll rub their orbital glands around their eyes and nose and their forehead and the base of their antlers, if they're a buck, on the lick branch to get their scent there. It's basically like you ever stay at an Airbnb and there's a checklist book for guests, right? That's basically what this is. It's letting every other deer know, hey, I'm Big John and I'm in town. And then when Daisy and Rosie come by and they check and they say, ooh, Big John was here, they know what buck is in the area. You know, then Little John comes by and he goes, oh no, man, John's already been here, but I better freshen it up. I don't know how he was here. Oh, he was here 3 days ago. Maybe I can sneak a doe in before he gets back. Basically stuff like that, right? It's a checklist of knowing who's in the area, when they've been there. That's how the deer are going to be communicated. In order to use these scrapes, people hunt over them. People hunt trails, crisscrossing, coming into, going from scrapes. That is how I've been hunting the past couple of years. And I've seen a lot of deer on camera, but sadly, past couple of years, I have not gotten a deer. Last year, I got really close. I was sitting over a huge scrape, man. And I tell you, I said it was the size of a hood of your truck. It was massive. And I had pictures of really nice deer hitting it consistently. And the rut has just started, and I had a nice 8-point cross just out of range. And I never had a shot with my bow. He was probably about 60 yards away. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I want to take anywhere between 40 and 20 or closer for a shot. And it just wasn't right, so I had to pass him. But you know why he passed me and I never got the shot? Because he was using a saddle, which I had to learn about, and now I want to try to teach you guys about it, because next year we're going to take what we learned and apply it and hopefully capitalize. Where the scrape was situated was on the downside of a hill, probably right here, and there was a ravine cutting up the hill. That scrape was about right here, and on the side of this hill there was a bench, right? Not a saddle, I'm sorry, a bench. And it's basically where if you're coming down a hill and it flattens out a little bit and then continues down, that flattened out part is the bench. And these deer will cruise those benches, these bucks will cruise those benches, scent checking, bedding above for does to see if anyone's in heat. And that is exactly what had happened to me. And I wasn't set up in the correct tree to be able to hunt the scrape and the bench. That's where I messed up. Hopefully, if you guys are seeing this, you guys can check the area a little bit more and not mess up like I did. If I had been in a tree that I had actually planned on setting up in that morning, I would have been able to capitalize. I tried grunting. I tried doing anything I could, really, to try to get that deer to stop. When they are out and they're scent checking does and it is the rut, yeah, I've seen people just yell, ah! And they don't stop, they don't turn, they don't do anything because they're so focused on getting some freaking puss. So it is definitely a setup that you want to remember, is watching where these deer actually like to travel and use the terrain to your advantage. So to close out on our first beginner's guide to hunting, you want to make sure you have all your equipment right. You got some boots, you got some warm clothes, you got camo, and I don't know where you're hunting, but I know in the upper peninsula of Michigan here, it gets cold. Another good thing that you can always do is make sure that your gear, the best thing your gear can do is allow you to stay in the woods longer. The last thing you want to do is say, I've been sitting here for 2 or 3 hours. My toes are frozen, man. I gotta leave. You get down from the tree, you hightail it out, and your cell camera sends you a picture 20 minutes later of the biggest buck of your life. It's happened to people. You want to make sure you're going to be warm. You know, they make those little packets where you rub them together, you throw them in your boots to keep your toes warm. People use electric socks. The best thing that I know is merino wool as a base layer, long johns, and a long sleeve shirt. Keeps you really, really warm. You can also get the socks too. And then you also got to get a good pair of boots that are going to keep your toes warm. Okay, you got your gear, you're set up, right? We can talk about scent control and everything like that in another video. You get your gear, you go out and you scout, right? And there's a good possibility that you can find these scrapes and rubs and stuff from the previous year. The best time to scout is pre-rut, which around here in the Upper Peninsula, you're looking at the first week, if not, yeah, the first week or second week of October, which is already bow season. I already have my places planned out of where I want to go, right? If you didn't, and if you're also watching this video, that means you probably didn't scout this spring. Think about it this way. The best time to scout for the next year is literally in January, February. Those winter months after deer season has passed, you can see how the deer are using the terrain, and there's not going to be any leaf cover. It's going to be the same way it's going to look, basically. In the spring there, January and February, it's going to look the same then as it does in middle of October, November, when you're actually hunting. So if you're watching this now and you want to hunt next year, go out and scout areas. Look, you got to put a lot of miles on, a lot of miles. The best and biggest bucks most likely are not gonna be within a half mile from the road, okay? I'm talking mile and a half back. There may be trails, and I know every state is different, but up here in the public land that I hunt, you like to be a little bit further, because that also takes every Jim Bob Cooter out of the equation. Every other Jim Bob Cooter around is gonna be parking, walking, or driving their four-wheeler down existing trails and setting up their stand where the trails end. What I found too is another good rule of thumb is don't even use trails. Park on the side of the road after you're doing your e-scouting on your phone. Park on the side of the road and go out in the woods. Just walk, okay? If you need to, bring a compass. If there's not cell service, set your drop pins on your phone first so you know where you're going, right? You can also use ribbon or pins in the tree that are reflectors to help you get in and out of your stand. That is my pet peeve. If you're hunting around other people, maybe you don't realize you're hunting around other people. I went out on public land and I had been there for, well, the whole bow season. Come rifle season, there's orange ribbons hung up in frickin' every tree, and they lead right to deer stands. I know it's public land and I don't own it, but that is a good way to, it upset me, because not only do you see it, but every other deer see it too, and they can smell the scent on said ribbon or whatever you leave hanging in the tree. They know you're there. Like, if I can see it plain as day, they sure can. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But get your gear, get your scouting in, and say you have a good location, I would say invest in at least a couple cell cams and hang them out. If you're allowed to use bait, go ahead and put a little bait out and see if there's anything coming around. If you're not allowed to use bait, your best bet is going to be on runways and on scrapes. I know I mentioned rubs, so we'll cover that right now. If you don't know what a rub is where a buck will rub its antlers on a tree, and it's either to remove velvet from their antlers, or it is simply to push out aggression in the pre-rut. They're aggravated, they're still in their beds, it's not cool enough yet to start running around, none of the does are in heat, so instead of running around, they'll get up in their bedding area and rub trees around their bedding area just to push out some aggression. Their testosterone is building at this point. It's getting to be so high, they're ready, they're primed. And then another thing that rubs are for is traveling routes, okay? People talk about rub lines, and it is a real thing. And usually if you follow a rub line, it can bring you right to a scrape or to a bedding area or to a feeding area, because they almost use them as sign markers. There'll be a rub on a tree here, and there'll be a runway. You follow that runway, there'll be another rub, another one, another one, another one. And you can get to a spot where it opens up or it closes in, and you can say, well, this is their bedding area, or, oh, this is their feeding area. You can tell. That is what a rub is. Go out, get your scouting in, get your cameras, get set up, get your weapon of choice, and practice your shots. That is how we're going to stop and conclude part 1 of the basics of hunting.